Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to go on a journey. A journey through what, perhaps? Mana in Path of Exile 2. Mana costs in Path of Exile 2 can scale pretty high right now. You can just be little Timmy wanting to add 10 levels to the level of your Earthquake gem and realizing it consumes half your mana bar every time you use it. This is a problem, but over the past few days, I have cooked up a solution. It all started when I wanted to play Cast on Crit. CoC has two issues. The first being energy gain while clearing versus single targets. You can gain absurd amounts of energy on a singular target because of the power system, but almost nothing while clearing trash in maps. So we can fix this by just being an Invoker with a massive 35% more CoC energy gained. We then scale a spark with a lot of duration, projectile speed, and additional projectiles to get plenty of critical hits for our CoC to be consistently used during mapping. That's great and all, cool, we fix that issue, but we've introduced a new issue with our CoC. On a boss, we consume a very large amount of mana as we're casting 2 sparks and our self-cast spark at the speed of light. Unique enemies have a power of 20, giving us a very large amount of CoC energy every time we crit them. And since we have refined our build to make as many crits as possible, this leads up casting a lot of spells. Now that sounds cool and all, and great, until you realize high level spells cost a very large amount of mana. A level 27 Spark Gem costs 153 mana per cast. If we were proccing like 4 per second or something per cast on crit, that's a lot of mana. That's like 600 mana per second per spark. There's not really many ways to sustain that much mana. There's options like stacking mana, but I did not want to go that route as, Archmage Spark has already been, played to death already as it stands this past two week period. That's what led us to the Mask of the Sanguimancer. Now remember, if you like content like this, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of currently supporting content like this on YouTube. Mask of the Sanguimancer is a unique that allows us to tap into our life to cast our spells, instead by giving us access to the Blood Magic Keystone. This saves us a lot of travel points we would have otherwise had to spend getting to it. But now we've swapped our insane mana cost to insane life costs, pretty much not fixing the issue that this whole video is about. But that's why we have a real solution. Flasks in Path of Exile 2 are drastically different than their Path of Exile 1 counterparts. You can only have 1 mana flask and 1 life flask at once. This is to encourage players to not spam a bunch of life flasks on bosses to get through the early game, and it's also meant to make combat more fun as to reduce the amount of piano you end up performing with your keyboard. We still piano like Beethoven, but trust me, as someone who's played a lot of Path of Exile 1 since I've been like 16, this is a welcome change. This has caused flasks individually to have a lot of power behind them. They restore a lot more life and have way more charges than their PoE 1 versions. We can abuse this to fix our life sustain issue that we've created for ourselves with our stupid planning. We can utilize nodes on the tree and jewels to super juice the amount of life we gain during a life flask duration. As you can see here, this flask gives us 1700 life over a period of 4 seconds, a little bit longer than I last in bed. That's equivalent to 425-ish life per second for 4 seconds. We get way more than this thanks to all of our investment. We even turn off our charms to get 30% more recovery thanks to Oasis. Charms fucking suck, so I don't mind losing them. All of a sudden, our insane life costs aren't as bad anymore, but we've hit a gigantic fucking wall that bricks our build. When you reach full life, your life flask ends its duration. This is true for Leech as well. If we're missing 1 life, use our life flask, it will recover that life and instantly end, potentially wasting all those juicy charges, meaning that if you're spamming the life flask like I do all the time because I'm a dumb fucking bitch, this is a huge issue. We don't want to be wasting charges as we need those to not die/sustain to our abusive life costs. So normally, this would be the end of the video. The easy solution would be to be a Pathfinder so we can gain access to the life flask overflow that it grants us, but we're an Invoker, and I'm way too fucking lazy to re-level a character. Also, Invoker is really good at what it's doing. So that's it. Build's bricked. End of the video. But is it? We have a solution. Turns out you can get flat charges per second in Path of Exile 2, and it's much easier than Path of Exile 1. We can gain charges on the tree with these passives, with this belt, and with this aura, and we get a decent amount of base charges per second. But that's not enough. Thankfully, life flash charges gained is an affix on jewels, and it's on the passive tree, like a smattering of it. We can scale this number to absolutely absurd levels. We have enough reduced life flash charges used while also gaining enough life flash charges gained that we refill enough charges each second for one use of our life flask. This pretty much solves the issue of our life flask ending its duration when it hits the top of our life bar, as we gain so many charges per second it doesn't matter. We can keep drinking like someone from Wisconsin. Hey, that's where I'm from. This comes with a pretty hilarious side effect that the moment we are not casting spells, we have absurd life gain per second. We gain like 1500 life per second or something stupid like that. I haven't done the numbers, and we don't have PoB, so I am way too lazy to check. But this means we are relatively tanky for most content. The only thing that really hurts us now is in T15 maps are just high physical damage attacks. Unfortunately, with my level investment, there's not much we can do against these hits, so we just dodge. Forehead, obviously, right? Now that we've solved this self-created issue, we can reap the benefits of casting a billion sparks per second. Spark is a pretty good skill, and since we are scaling skill effect duration on the tree, we might as well cast 2 extra sparks as well. Turns out spark times 3 is pretty good. This leads to the entire screen being filled with projectiles the moment we sneeze on a boss, which is just hilarious to watch, to be honest with you. Now, the question all of you must ask at this point, is this build good? It's fine. It clears. That's all that matters. I'm not heavily invested into the build at all currency wise. The main reason for that is Spark is an absurd skill and is probably going to get gutted the moment Jonathan is finished emptying his stocking on Christmas Eve. If you want to invest more into this build, what I would suggest is swapping to an energy shield focus in general, like just more energy shield, as you want to face tank those physical attacks. Remove the evasion investment, as you can get a very large amount of energy shield quickly through just a little bit of investment on the tree. But I'm not going to do that now because I have my sights set for other builds currently, and I really don't have the time to be dirtling on a single build. If you want a full build guide on this, in the description there is a Mobalytics link where a full written version of this is at your disposal. This is going to be my last update on the build, but I'm pretty sure you can push this way farther than I have if you really cared. Now, let's go in game and talk about everything more in detail and embrace our inner nerd. Alright, here we are in game of the character. Let's go over everything in detail. So for our skill links, let's go over that. Our main spark, this is meant to cast on crit for us. We only have a certain amount of crit chance currently. We only have 28% crit, but it actually doubles when we, of course, utilize our Eye of Winter to get a bunch of critical strike chance on top of that. And the main reason I have invested too much into crit, mainly just because passives, you can get crit here, mainly crit. It's weird because you want to crit, but you don't want to crit too much, if that makes sense, because you need to like find a balance between the amount of life you're consuming and the amount of life that you're gaining. So at this point, after I got to this point with my character, I realized instead of focusing into crit as much, I focused into other ways of scaling the character, like percent damage and stuff like that. So just so you know. Now, we're running mobility because it's really nice to be able to move while we're casting. Very convenient. Acceleration, more projectile speed. The more projectile speed you have, the more a spark can hit the same target on average, and it just helps you increase your hit rate significantly. More duration. The longer sparks last, the more times they can hit a singular target. Good for us. And then also as well, arcane tempo for just cast speed, because we want to cast as much as possible. Then, for our first cast on crit setup, we have this spark with elemental focus, because we don't care about the shocking, because we're shocking with other sparks, so we just want to deal more damage. We actually have this with impetus, because we want to gain increased energy on this one. And we also have inspiration on this, as it reduces the cost of the spark so that we're not dying like a little bitch. We really need this because we cast spark so much that like it's just so much extra life. So make sure to put inspiration on this link. Then for our second link, we have spark alongside lightning exposure. We get every so often. You can invest a little bit into shock chance on the tree to make this a lot more consistent. Then energy retention, because it's the other energy thing, and we can do that. In theory, you could actually put energy retention on your 6th link on cast on crit, but 6 links are expensive right now. That's pretty much it for that. For other gems I would put on once this is done, probably just utility links like electrify buildup and stuff like that, mainly just to, start stunning things and maps and stuff like that. Now for flame wall, we have plus level of fire skills, just to give us more flat damage with our flame wall. Then also as well fortress, so we create a circle, so when we're sitting inside, all of our extra sparks we cast all get extra flat fire, just a decent amount of flat fire. Then conductivity is our main curse, because just lightning res, right? Alchemist boon here is very important to sustaining our life flask. We get enough spirit to cast both our cast on criticals by GCPing or cast on crits to get reduced reservation. That on top of a really hefty chest piece on top of our lead me through grace is enough to get us 125 spirit. That's like the magic number. You want to do the math and make sure you get 125 spirit. Then you can have 2 casts on crits and an alchemist boon at the same time. And a cannibalism. Cannibalism is very important for this build, as it makes our clear feel a lot better, as gaining life when we kill things makes up for the absurd amount of life costs that we're doing while clearing. Then for the last link here, we have Eye of Winter alongside Unleash and Blind. Blind, we're running evasion, so just 20% less accuracy. Cool. And then Unleash, just to cast out multiple Eye of Winters to apply the critical weakness on hit. This actually doubles our crit chance on our Spark. Our Spark only has 9% crit chance base, but with this critical weakness here, I believe it almost doubles the critical strike chance in general. So that's cool. Good. Cool. Done with that. Now, let's talk about our passive tree. So, my passive tree is all over the place. Let's just talk about the portions of it. Skill Effectoration, really good with Spark. Makes your Spark feel really good. We want to trigger skills half energy spent, so we trigger even more. Eventually, you want to grab these nodes for a massive amount of percent damage, but I just didn't have the passive points to do it. Eventually, you'd want to go into the projectile speed up here, but I didn't have the passive points to do it. Then, just a massive amount of crit chance here. Then over here, even more increased damage with our trigger gems and stuff like that. Reduced flash charges used. We want crit chance here, just as much crit chance as possible here. More crit chance, more crit chance, more crit damage. Then up here, more life flash charges, mainly Hail Traveler. We mainly want to go on this side for the increased life flash charges gained. That's cool. Then we actually grab all of the pierce chance here. So we get 65% here, and then we also anoint the pierce chance down here with shrapnel, so we get up to I think a 95% chance to pierce. This makes it so that we can pierce an enemy with all of our sparks so they can hit the same target multiple times, giving us a lot of damage. Then down here, we're just grabbing even more life flash stuff, just life flash charges gained, life flash charges, more flash stuff, flash increase effect. I believe this is multiplicative with, of course, our percent life recovery from flash, if I'm not mistaken. Also as well, flash charges gained as well, duration, just all the good stuff for flasks. A very large amount of percent projectile damage here, like 55% from this small little cluster of points. Very strong. Then over here, we're grabbing some evasion, some projectile damage, but we're actually doing it to get flask life recovery rate. This makes it so our flask recovers life faster in general, so that it keeps up with our massive amount of cocking we're doing. Cool. Then we grab Oasis here for 30% more recovery from flasks. We don't really need charms with this build. I've never really felt like I needed charms. Like if I was getting frozen, it's probably because I was going to die anyways. So although you do lose access to the rarity charm, but rarity probably is going to get gutted when GGG comes back from vacation. That's pretty much it for the passive tree. Now let's talk about the gearing, shall we? For the helmet, the main thing that's mandatory is Master of the Sanguine to get blood magic. This saves us a very large amount of passive points. So if we look over here, blood magic is all the way over here. That would be an absurd amount of travel that is not worth it. This saves us a lot of passive, so it's good to go. You can also get a corroded one to get extra elemental. You can actually get an extra socket with corrosion. I would search for something like this. Then for our staff here, extra damage. We're actually playing a build that doesn't really care about what damage type we're doing, thanks to access to Sundermite enemies, which is most of our damage, meaning that we can actually pretty much scale as much damage as we want here. Then percent damage, level of spell skills, and cast speed. Eventually, instead of the reduced attribute requirements, you want spell critical strike chance, but that would be an absurdly costed staff. Then for amulet here, you use whatever amulet you want, other than specifically the spirit one, because the spirit one would not give you spirit. I just have life, level, spell skills, cast speed, dexterity. The energy shield doesn't really help us, but whatever, who cares? Chest here, we went for an evade. This pretty much gives us about 125 spirit in total. This is like the perfect chest, like perfect number anyways. The suffixes suck, but you know, I got it for a very low amount, so that's all we care about is less cost, because I'm trying to make this as cheap as possible to make the build as realistic as possible for the viewer, you guys. Then ring here, life, dex, res, nothing crazy. Percent damage is really nice to have on the prefix. Life, damage, rarity, res, dexterity, cool, right? Gloves here, just res, life, evasion base, cool. Belt, this is way more important than everything else I've talked about. The reduced flash charges used and the flash gain charges per second is very important. You want to reduce the amount of flash charges you use on your flask while also increasing the amount you gain per second to kind of meet in the middle per se. You want to reduce both ends. So that's why we have a belt like this. I tried reduce flash charges on a belt, but I found the flash gain charges is better on the implicit, and then we just roll reduce flash charges used on the thing. Cool. Boots here, just movement speed, evasion, HP, res, cool, good to go. Then our flask, this is important. This is the exact flask you want. You don't want anything else. This is exactly the flask you want. You don't want extra charges per second, get all that everywhere else. You want the reduced flash charges to use and the increased amount recovered. This is like literally the perfect flask. You don't want anything else. This is good to go. And that's pretty much it for the character. That's pretty much it for the gear. That's pretty much it for this video. With all that being said, this has been Dread. Off to go do something else. Bye.